please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And you have roll call, please?
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Bernard,
Yes.
and I'm here.
So I'll do again.
See by the bell.
Ah, my daughter almost stopped there last night.
I did turn the thermostat up when I came in, Jim. I refuse to be cold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine.
But I turned it 68.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the special public hearing that was held on November 18th, 2024.
I'll second.
You made the motion.
I did. Roll call?
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Pease,
Yes.
Ms. Bernard,
Yes.
and I'm yes as well.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on November 18th, 2024. You have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Pease,
Yes.
Ms. Bernard,
Yes.
and I'm yes as well.
All right, next item on the agenda is open for the, hi there, Peter. Sorry, we're late. Got a cookie for everybody?
Yeah, I want a bite of that.
Ooh.
Oh. It's okay, I was just kidding. It looks delicious.
Thank you for offering that cookie. Open to the public for comments. Matt, do you have anything?
Nothing right now.
Corey?
No, sir.
Jim? Next item would be the zoning inspector's report. There was one certificate issued in the month of November, and it was for a shed, which was agriculture on North Park Avenue. Next item on the agenda is I'd like to talk about section 5, the status of section 5, classification of uses. And I'm going to read the letter from the Trumbull County Planning Commission first, just to remind everybody. Enclosed is a copy of resolution number 1124-76, which was adopted by the Trumbull County Planning Commission at its regular board meeting on August 13, 2024. Regarding the above-mentioned text amendment, the Planning Commission suggests that the township consult with legal counsel in reference to the comments listed in the Plats and Zoning Committee minutes of November 5th, 2024, a copy of which is attached. And we went through most of that, all of that at our last meeting. And I've been in contact with Jason Toth a couple times on this whole topic. And Julie Green sent me some information. I passed that information on to Jason. He reviewed it. And we came to a conclusion as to what we would like to do. And what we've done is so organized tonight. What we did was we added one line to the conditionally permitted uses under conditional zoning certificates in the residential area, and which was item number 12, rooming house, some examples, but not limited to fraternity house, lodging house, boarding house, and guest house. We eliminated the definition of a rooming house because that's what caused all the concerns by the Planning Commission. So we did that, and we, under section B, the business district, we added the rooming house, examples, some, but not limited to fraternity house, lodging house, boarding house, guest house. And Jason was comfortable with that. He saw no problem with it. But our dilemma was, the, we'd already passed a section on approval of section 5, sent it to the planning commission, and they had sent us back. Jason's suggestion was that we start the process over again. That we rescind the motion, that originally approved us progressing with, section 5, that we rescind that motion and then start the whole process over again, which I totally agree with, because that's the cleanest way to do it. Because now we won't get in, you wouldn't get into a problem with planning commission, well, we didn't approve that, we did approve this, and if we start over again, it's a clean slate, and we just go through the process again. So with that in mind, and I think I sent everybody that email that included all those emails back and forth between different people.
Yes.
Lots of interesting reading there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But what I would like to do now is make a motion to rescind motion number BTZC 2445, which authorized the zoning commission to proceed with the text revisions to section 5, classification of uses. Because of the definition of rooming house may conflict with the Fair Housing Act. Trumbull County Planning Commission's Resolution 11/2476 is referenced here. The Trumbull County Assistant Prosecutor's opinion was that we rescind this motion. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Is Tara?
Yes.
Roll call?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Storage? Ms. Pease?
Yes.
Ms. Bernard?
Yes.
And I'm yes as well.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised classification, section 5, classification of uses, which cover the text revisions and changes that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. My motion would be to approve latest revision to section 5, classification of uses, R district, residential, conditionally permitted uses, item 12, add additional text, rooming house, some examples but not limited to fraternity house, lodging house, boarding house, guest house. B district, paragraph B, subparagraph 1, definition of rooming house was deleted. Paragraph B, subparagraph 1, the following text was added. Rooming house, some examples but not limited to fraternity house, lodging house, boarding house, guest house, and begin. And forward the appropriate documents to the Trumbull County Planning Commission for their recommendation. And to set a public hearing date for January 16, 2025 at 6 p.m. Any discussion? Do you have a second?
I second that.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Storage?
Yes.
Ms. Pease?
Yes.
Ms. Bernard?
Yes.
And I'm yes as well.
You said the 16th, right, Ken?
16th of January, correct. Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion on ADUs. And I think I did send everybody a copy of the latest one. And today didn't have anything else to do. So I made some additional changes in that, so you can pass those down, please. And after I made these changes, and Tara sent me some information also. Tara's information is in green there, and some of this is what we talked about at our last meeting. I went through and made some changes, like on number 7, an ADU be a minimum of 1,000 square feet. I have footage in there, but cannot exceed the square footage of the larger primary dwelling.
I
I want to go through this whole thing line by line, really. And I've had some further thoughts on this whole thing since I sent this out earlier, and did this earlier today, so. One of the things I think has confused me all through this process is we get a separate, an ADU could be a separate dwelling or it could be an addition. And I use the example of what we did for my parents. Many years ago, we put an addition on, made it an in-law suite. I think sometimes we get bogged down between the two of those, and what I'd like to do is separate this whole thing into an apartment type thing, an in-law suite, and a separate dwelling. So as we talk about each of those, you don't get bogged down in, well, does that reflect to that one or this one or whatever, so. As we go through this, keep that in mind. I'd like you to keep that in mind on some of these things here. And which one may be appropriate to an apartment and which may be appropriate to a separate dwelling, separate building. And then again, we may not even want to have a separate building. You know, that can come up too. As I said last month, this is a very complex issue. We just need to be really careful about what we do out here on this. So we need to spend a lot of time thinking about it. I'd like to start down through the first item. One of the things we talked about last month was to add a purpose. When I did that, this section identifies and regulates the design, construction, and usage of accessory dwelling units in Bristol Township. Anybody have any questions on that?
Sweet, simple, and to the point. I like that.
Definitions. A, an accessory dwelling unit, ADU, is a self-contained secondary independent living and sleeping space that is a permanent construction that shares the building lot of a larger primary home. The unit cannot be bought or sold separately.
Good.
This is one that I'd like to, would be an example of separating it from an addition. You just have, section 14A, which would be just apartment type things that would reflect, be appropriate to an apartment. And then section B would reflect to a separate dwelling if we decide to do that. Okay. Item B here is an ADU is also known as an in-law or mother-in-law suite unit, secondary dwelling unit, granny flat, or carriage house. I'd like to eliminate carriage house there because I'm not sure carriage house has.
About granny flat. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm a grandmother, so it sounds.
Well, I'm a grandmother.
You get
too.
kicked to the back.
Yeah, I don't like it.
You
Here's
don't
your
like
little
that?
house.
I mean, it's fine, but like, I guess I didn't even really. I've never heard it before. It's the first time I've heard it, so I like the idea of keeping it simple and how people understanding it.
So if we eliminate, everybody okay with eliminating?
Sarah?
Do you like it?
I don't care. I don't care if do we have to put the AKAs in there? I mean, I guess we could give
Well,
them
I think
definitions.
some people might, for clarification
Okay,
purposes.
I understand. I don't care. You can leave all the names. We could add some more if you want.
Father-in-law suite.
I'm sorry?
What happens to the father-in-law suite?
I think it's fine how it's. I think it's nice.
Mother-in-law suite.
What is a carriage? It's a carriage house is the same thing. Is that what they used to call it? Like, where did that come from?
It would probably be a separate building.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It was a garage or something that was converted into a.
Okay.
Okay. An ADU may be attached to a house or garage where it can be built as a standalone unit, but it must make use of water and energy connection with the primary dwelling.
Looks good.
One D, an accessory dwelling unit is designed for occupancy by one family for living and sleeping purposes that provides complete independent living facilities, its own independent exterior entrance, kitchen, bathroom that are located on the same lot as a larger single family dwelling and serves as a principal use of the parcel and whose use is subordinate and incidental to the larger single family dwelling. ADU may be a modified structure that currently exists on the tax duplicate as an accessory structure on a parcel.
Is that a redundant line?
Well, other than the tax duplicate part, yeah, it probably is redundant. The other,
Can we just add that part to another line now?
I just think we just said an ADU may be attached to a house or garage, and we said. I don't know.
Well, I was concerned about C and D being contradictory. When you said D had to be independent, but C said it had to be off the same well. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where that can be confusing, if you look at it. Yeah.
Are they tied into one septic?
That's all gonna depend on like what Trumbull County has to say, right? I mean, they're the ones that determine that.
Yeah, they
How
never
big
know.
the place is, how much, yeah, listen, I already know. They know how to get money or collect money. That can't be a zoning key, so it kinda.
That's, it's part, isn't here. If you think it's necessary, Ken, I'm cool with it, I just asking. I think it's fine, I just wanted to know if it was like. You know, just stating the same thing over again.
How do you feel about it, Ken?
reading it for the second, third time.
Or Ken?
Yeah. I'd like to leave it in.
Okay. It makes sense.
I have a question if you don't mind.
No problem.
So does that garage have to be attached to the house or can the garage be separate and then you're willing to let them add on to it?
Can be separate, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Separate unit.
Right, but if you're gonna run off the same utilities and everything, that's not an independent dwelling.
Maybe the garage has.
Garage power comes from the house. Septic tank, everything, right?
Well,
That doesn't make it an independent unit.
to add to that, your percentage for ADU square footage, is that going off the garage or is that going off the house?
Well, I address that a little bit later here, Corey.
Okay.
Let's come back to that one.
Okay.
Do you even have that? Is this a zoning? I mean, is this something that you have to have? Why do we even have?
We started this process like a year and a half ago. This is,
I mean, what's the reasoning for it? I don't understand it. Did somebody want to do it?
That flag came out of Cincinnati, wasn't it the first one?
well,
no,
it started here.
Did it?
Yeah, somebody had a question about, was it about those houses that, was it about those Airbnbs or B?
Airbnbs.
Oh, okay. I don't remember what.
I think it was an Amish family that
This
wanted
come
to
about,
go.
yeah, by not building multiple homes on a piece of land.
Yeah.
That's what it comes.
But they all should have separate septics and separate utilities. How could you run another house off of the same septic tank? I don't think you can do that.
Probably because
as
of
far
the
as
That's it,
percentage.
if we get further in here, you'll read that too, just,
Hey,
Let's keep
I
going.
got a quick question before you. Do we have duplexes?
Yes.
There's 2 or 3 duplexes.
Or where, so I could build a duplex. I mean, Bristolville zoning, you could have duplexes?
They're on House of Craft.
Well, I'm just wondering in the zoning, can you have a triplex?
I think there's
Okay,
one
I-
on House.
I said, there are some things that have happened in the past, Jim, that should not have happened. And were allowed in this township.
Okay, because I don't know of any, but I just wondered if in the zoning, if you wanted to build a duplex, you could build a duplex.
There's 2 down farther.
I'm sorry, I got
High
off
Shafer.
subject.
There's a duplex down on High Shafer too.
Well, what's Dr. Fox? Is that Bristol or Bloomfield?
That's another one that
Okay.
got through.
If you put
Bristol
another
Township.
family in your house.
A Bristol
you got a
Township zoning
duplex.
certificate for an ADU should not be issued until proof of compliance with all Trumbull County Health District regulations have been provided. So I guess if the county allows it to be, them to use the septic tank. Now, I will say, when we did put the addition on for my mom and dad, the county came out, they inspected the septic system. With the addition on the house now, they said, no problem. We had to put a new well in, but septic system passed. So we complied with what the county said to do, we had to do.
I think, Jim, with the duplex, though, you have separate utilities
Yes.
and you have separate addresses.
Yes.
Huh?
So I think this is a little bit different between an addition and a.
Oh, I said that wasn't my, I just wondered, I just happened to think that there are duplexes in it. But I mean, if you add a bedroom onto a house, you have to go to the county and
Yeah.
maybe upgrade your septic system.
So
It's any addition to a house, you might as well just go get a new septic system.
So I guess, we have in here that the Bristol Township zoning certificate should not be issued until proof of compliance with Trumbull County Health District is, and they're gonna say yes or no on the well or the septic system, or what you can do. Whether it's a separate entity or whether it's an addition to the house. Okay, the Bristol Township zoning certificate should not be issued until a site plan has been presented showing that all relative sections of the Bristol Township zoning resolution have been reviewed by the zoning inspector and compliance confirmed. So the onus goes back to the zoning inspector to make sure, based on the site plan that's presented, that everything conforms to the Bristol Township zoning resolution. Okay, next item on here, only 1 ADU is permitted per lot. And the lot must be a minimum of 2 acres. So, now Farmington has 5 acres in their zone.
Total,
5 acres, minimum of 5 acres. You could have 25 acres,
but yeah,
but you have to have a minimum of 5 acres. We had 2.5 acres when we put our addition on for my mom and dad. So 2 acres, that's one of the reasons why I think they let the septic system is approved, or at least they waived it. So I thought 2 acres, that's up for debate whether you want to make that larger or larger anyway. But the 2 acres also, let's go on here for a second. An owner of a lot with an ADU must reside in one of the 2 structures for as long as the ADU exists, or it designates a responsible person to do so. I'm not sure why I put that in there in the first place. So it was just one of those things that I copied from I think it was from Hartford, that I put that in there. So And Tara, you asked the question why that was in there.
I just said, are we gonna have to put the responsible person on somewhere? How are we gonna know it's a responsible person?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And responsible is a relative term, you know, like,
oh, now you're being responsible. Okay,
I don't know, that was my thought.
moving on, an ADU must be a minimum of 1,000 square foot, but cannot exceed the square footage of the larger primary dwelling. 1,000 square foot confirms to section 15, the minimum size of a dwelling, which is 1,000 square feet. So that overcomes one of the things we talked about last month was the sizes, 75%, 60%. It's still gotta be 1,000 square feet. But it can't be, it still has to be smaller than the.
Okay, like she brought up many meetings before, 1,000 square feet of living space or 1,000 square feet of legit
Right.
building downstairs. You understand what I mean? So like a 20 by 50, or do we have a 20? Have to be 25 by 20, and then stacked on top of it, so you got
Some of
1,000 square
the,
feet.
some zoning.
I think it's living space, 1,000 square feet of living space.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay,
you
what-
can't include.
what
the
section
basement.
15?
No, or a garage, you're right.
Section 15 states, excuse me, every structure used as a dwelling or residence shall have a first floor space designed and used for living quarters of not less than 1,000 square
Right.
feet.
So the ground level has to be 1,000 foot.
Right.
We're talking area, not square footage. For living space.
This shall be exclusive of basements, porches, garages, breezeways, terraces, attics, or partial stories. So I think we're pretty well covered there based on what section 15 says. So if it's part of the process that the zoning inspector goes through when they're looking at this, the house, the primary dwelling is, we'll say 2,000 square feet, they only want to put 1,000 square feet addition or a separate building. They're covered on it. It meets the minimum requirement of square footage. And the, also meets the section 9, which talks about one other thing here.
So maybe I'm confused. So you even dad on a mother-in-law or father-in-law suite like you did, you want it to be 1,000 square feet? Added
That's what
on to
the
that
zoning,
house?
we should have been able to do what we did. We should have been stopped.
Right.
How many square foot is yours, Ken?
About 700.
I feel like if I was gonna add on a mother-in-law spell, I wouldn't have 1,000 square feet though.
No.
Is that asking too much?
That's what
Way too
I'm
big.
getting at.
Wait,
Well, that's why we're talking about
Right.
these things here.
Like I have a relative who added a mother-in-law suite in somewhat. It's not 1,000 square foot.
So what's the definition of an in-law suite?
That's why they're.
the extra
they want to
kitchen?
Break it up, right?
The extra
Versus
kitchen?
An addition versus an in-law,
Right.
like an ADU. I think there's a difference between an addition and ADU.
That's what,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. And that's what you're talking about, what you're wanting to do. And I think that has to be addressed.
I mean, is that the
Separate.
definitions
I think
of,
1,000 square foot's too big, minimum, and I understand we're trying to not, to eliminate like little tiny little things,
Mhm.
but I think 1,000 square foot's a lot for a mother-in-law suite.
I think that's considered an addition though. An ADU is
Yeah.
a separate
Well,
building and that should be
these are some of the
1,000
things we're gonna have to separate out. So
Right.
I agree with you, 1,000.
But like my grandpa's,
Oh, yeah.
that's not 1,000 square
No,
feet.
no.
It's plenty big for him, but it's not 1,000 square feet.
But I wish I'd have put a little bit bigger on so my mom and dad would have a little space
Yeah.
between them, so.
Get over.
Yeah.
Okay.
a separate unit would be 1,000 square feet minimum.
Okay.
An addition, I think that's kind
Well,
of
we have,
up to
yeah.
the people. If
Yeah.
if I want Corey to come and live with me and he wants to live in 200 square feet,
I think it would depend
How
if
are
you have
you gonna
a
do
separate
that?
entrance and separate cooking area, right?
Yeah. And we did that for my mom, but we still have to address section 9, which is a minimum lot area per family. Okay?
Well, that's-
So now, my mom and dad were a separate family, okay? No single-family dwelling shall be erected or building altered to accommodate one family as a residence on less than 43,560 square feet.
Of the land, It's not the house. So I have a 43,000 square foot of land. I could
But
put
if
my
you've got
mother in a
That's,
10 by 12, right, and say she's living there. Kind of.
so what kind of square footage would you want?
I don't think you can tell people how big
But here's the thing, you don't
you
want to
can
have,
with the additional dwelling unit,
right.
but if I have
And
a
an
house.
addition, I think there's a
An
difference
addition,
between an addition and a, so you don't want to have a house, a main structure, and then all these little huts out here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
No,
what
you
you
only
don't
allowed
want.
one.
You wanna have a house, if you wanna add an addition on as an
Right.
in-law suite, that's fine and dandy. They want whatever, but I think you don't want separate individual buildings on your property.
No, you're only allowed
It's like
one.
you're having
That's what you
campers.
guys been talking about for a year. You're allowed one.
Listen.
I got a question. You look like-
Well, I think 2 acres is kind of ridiculous too, if you wanna put on an addition and I gotta have 2 acres of property to put an addition on.
I think that's an ADU though.
Well, that's not what we're
Well,
saying.
Yeah, that's-
That's why,
That's what we need to
Code
get
needs
separated.
Separating these two
Mhm,
things.
absolutely, because it needs to be.
An addition is separate from
Yeah.
an ADU.
Because right now, it's not, everything's an ADU.
Right.
Right.
That's
You
what,
have to
yeah.
separate
I
that.
feel like you should be able to build up your house whatever you want.
That's what my point is. That's what we're getting at there. So that's,
Because.
he's right about separating, and I think that needs to be done.
Well, and my thing too is that what's the definition of an ADU in-law suite? Because there's a lot of homes that have 2 kitchens. It's
Well, I've got 3
still,
kitchens.
right, it's still very popular,
Yeah,
so.
I wouldn't think that should matter if
No,
it's on the same house.
it's in the same.
Just like you said, you can
structure.
have 5 kitchens. If you want 5 kitchens, that shouldn't matter
Can
in one dwelling. But I think you're right, Ken, about making sure that's very clear on that, because right now it's not.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's a difference between an addition and an ADU.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to
But if I
have
have,
an
if I have
addition
a
to your
If I have a
house.
separate garage and I have a small space, my dad wants to move into the small space, I don't have 1,000 square feet. I think 1,000 square feet for one person is a large amount.
Yeah.
I just feel like maybe
Absolutely.
at the same time, you
But
don't wanna make it too small, because then you have everybody living in the back garage.
Right, but what they're saying in the other thing was it's a percentage of the
Right.
initial structure. So, in other words, if I have 1,000 square foot house, I can't put a 500 and a 500 and a 500
Yeah, I
on
understand that.
here. So you have a large house, a percentage of it.
Nicest garage in the township.
What's that?
She has the nicest garage in the township.
Yes.
Okay, let's move along here. Item A here, an ADU must be permanently constructed with permanent utility hookups or shared with the primary structure, which I think that's. Any non-conforming dwelling existing prior to the effective date of this language would not be subject to this resolution. Then I have item number 10, the accessory dwelling unit is considered a residential building and is permitted in all districts. This is one of the things that I'd like to see also, that an accessory dwelling, which separates from an addition, would have to have a conditional zoning certificate. That way it has to go to the Board of Appeals. The neighbors have to be notified.
I like that idea.
Pardon?
Yeah.
I like that idea.
I do.
So everybody knows what's going on. I think that will simplify a whole lot, number one, separating the apartment type thing from a separate dwelling. And then the separate dwelling has to be approved by the zoning board of appeals through a conditional
That's all.
certificate.
Yeah.
You look like you got a question back there yet, Jim.
No, I'm just,
Yeah,
it's, you just got.
Thinking
I think
how many
I
ADUs
think you guys are overthinking this too much. But you gotta separate it. You can't have an ADU inside of your existing house. You got a 2 acre lot or a 5 acre lot or 100 acres, you're allowed to have one other house on it, that's it. that's your additional dwelling unit. You're one, right? You're only allowed one. And if you have a house, you want to put an addition because your mother's by herself. If you want to put a 500 square foot addition, it's not called an additional dwelling unit, I don't think. It's an addition.
Just it's an addition. Right.
I'm thinking more along lines of in a separate building.
Pardon?
In my head, it's more of like in your top of your garage or like, you know.
An ADU is a
Well, then
separate-
that's an
separate
ADU.
subject.
That's not an addition. That's an ADU.
I'm
Yeah.
right,
If you
yeah.
put it in your garage, and your garage not
Yeah,
hooked to
because I
your
feel like
house,
you have the right to add on
that'd
to
be
your
Corey.
house.
You'd have a 1,000 square foot house and a 10 vehicle garage, right?
Well,
It'd be-
I have 13 cars, so. I
Yeah,
like
so
that's
you
fine.
need more. But anyway, I'm just,
Okay,
I don't
well,
know. It seems to be-
what I'd like to do is, I'll redraft this thing, separate it out. And, we'll have it for our next meeting.
Okay. Great.
That's lovely.
Notice I said our next
I
meeting.
I know, I was
I
gonna
heard
say, you're not
that.
gonna be here, right?
I said our next meeting.
He's gonna be here. He's
Our,
gonna be here. He's not going
How
home.
long?
for a while.
In the zoning, Kevin, excuse me, in the zoning right now, don't you have zoning for additions? Don't you have you don't have nothing? Oh, okay, never mind then. Nothing. Well, Trumbull County does, so
Well,
I
yeah,
guess that
but I'm just-
kind of,
This
Did
goes
you-
back to what Doug was saying at the last trustee meeting, that there are some things in the zoning book that totally need to be looked at. And this is one of them. You know, our zoning inspector has been reluctant to, every time we tried to do something, not every time, but most of the times, was reluctant to do anything because it just made the book more complex. Really, she didn't mind the issues. But I think, you made a very good statement there. There's nothing in our book about that. About an addition. Now at least we'll have something.
well, the only good part about that, it all falls back to the county. You're not gonna get a bunch of people throwing up a bunch of additions. Now the zoning inspector should go say, hey, go to the county and say, hey, go out to Hazelcraft, they're putting a big addition on their house. Well, the county would be right, I mean, at least they're there to stop it.
You look
If
like
it's
an
not
expert,
legal.
say.
No, I was just gonna laugh. I mean, been 40 years.
Okay, so I'll redraft this. I will, even with a holiday, I promise to get it out sooner than 2 days before the meeting. So. Okay. Short-term rentals is on hold, and I think I mentioned before that Senate Bill 299 has been assigned to a committee, which is a good thing. That's more than the last one made it to. So we just need to keep on our state senator to keep that one going through. The next item on the agenda is solar facilities. And what can I say about this? Anyway, the current section 36.2 on solar energy systems does not cover small solar facilities. How we missed this when we were drafted this 3 years ago, we just missed it. But everything we have in our zoning book now really talks about solar panels for houses and things like that. It does not address small solar facilities. So I contacted the Trumbull County Planning Commission and the Ohio Township Association, Trustee Association, has a template for small solar facilities that the Planning Commission is recommending. Vienna is in the process of, they modified it, and Southington butchered it, modified it. But what I'd like to do, I think If I didn't mail this out to everybody, I did, okay. I can't remember what I did do and what I didn't do.
I had all kinds of.
Okay, I'd like 2 volunteers
Oh,
to go through this small solar facility and modify it to what they think Bristol should be. There's some things in here that are really for bigger townships, and there are some things in here that probably are pretty good for us. To go through our section 36.2 and see what's in there, and what this is, but I think legally, this is probably the best thing we could do is to modify to what the Ohio Township Association recommends.
so you want to compare it to the other ones you sent us?
Pardon?
You want us to compare it?
You
to
can
the
use
other
that
ones
as just a
reference?
reading reference out there, because
The
I'm
template-
not
The
one.
template one,
Pardon?
the template,
The template, yeah. I'm not warm and fuzzy with what Southington did or Vian did.
So Ken, question on the smaller scale of the solar, is that to kind of control commercial use? So like, is someone allowed to put up solar
Let's
to
put it this way,
facilitate?
Ellen has been approached by somebody to put in a small solar farm.
Okay, so commercial.
Township. Yeah, that was a commercial thing. We don't have anything to cover it. There's nothing as our zoning to say we can't modify it, because if it's over 50 megawatts, the state controls it. If it's under 50 megawatts, it's left to the individual.
what about the county? Nothing on the county?
Uh-uh. That's why they're recommending this, that everybody try to be somewhat the same. So, I would like 2 volunteers if people are out. I'm not looking at anybody.
I think I was following forward, but I'll do it.
I'm sorry.
I'll do it too.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Listen, we started this ADU a year and a half ago, and I was voluntold what to do. Now look at it.
Yeah, yeah, aren't you glad?
I know, I'm definitely never volunteering, and I'm gonna think about the voluntold thing. I'm not sure that I should do that either.
Okay. So, thank you.
What do you need me to do? You need something?
Mhm.
What?
That's next on the agenda.
Yeah.
you need a vote, just so you know. How can I say it?
I need to review the meeting dates for I did talk to, the next item on the agenda is the meeting dates for 2025. Sent Nikki an email and she reserved these dates for 2025. So you can put them on your calendars. I've already put on there the public hearing on January 16th. So at least we have dates, and we can, what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to approve January 13th as the next meeting date of the zoning commission. Would you like to make that motion, Jeannie?
I would.
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call.
Okay, Jamie,
Yes.
and you second?
Yes. I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Courage,
Yes.
Ms. Pease. Ms. Pease,
Yes.
Ms. Bernard,
Yes.
and I'm yes as well.
And the last thing on the agenda really is Appendix A, which is the list of the zoning certificate fees. The only time that the zoning commission can make a change to that Appendix A is the first meeting of the month, first meeting they have of the calendar year. So I'd like 2 volunteers
Just spit it out. Where are we at?
Appendix A, which is the zoning certificate fees. To at least look at a couple of townships around us to see what their zoning fees are, and compare it to what we have, and so we can make a recommendation to the trustees whether they should. None of these fees have been changed probably for 10 years.
I'll look too.
We talked a couple years ago when the one guy that's like him before he retired. And
Wait a minute.
Like him.
Mark,
It
right?
looked like-
Mark, thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I'm not good with names, so thank you. Anyways, he said like he wanted people to like move in our town and it wasn't a big deal, but you're right. Like I went to the grocery store today and I was shocked at some of the changes, so we'll check it out. But I don't like the idea of upping anything too much just because everything has been upped, you know?
Well,
Yeah,
that's,
aren't they like $10 for a building permit?
I have more.
Yeah, but we do want to stay.
it's something like that.
Yeah.
It's $10 for a fence, I think, $15 for a swimming pool, you know.
Well,
It's an additional
Some
tax.
places go by square footage, do they not?
On your building,
On
we
the
do
building,
too.
Are there any fines
Oh,
for not acquiring them?
yes. Yeah.
My other question on a building permit, can you overstep the township and just go straight to the county and get it?
You have to get both.
I understand that,
Like
but
we
you,
got a roof on our house, I made sure we need a permit for the, we don't need one for here, go down to county one for that. But you, sometimes, I think some of them you need both, I think we need both, right? You can't-
They made you get a permit to put a roof on.
Well,
Yeah, really?
I'm gonna make sure I'm following the rules from zoning.
It's a
Also, they
county-
were gonna be there for like
It's
5
a county
days.
regulation. You
Well,
have to
that's
get a
because you have
permit.
to.
Yeah,
It's just-
I
never
agree.
did
Oh,
that.
dang, huge roof.
And we talked about that at one time and we decided that, you know, we're already digging into their pockets too much.
Right.
Why go after, you know, one more thing?
Yeah.
What's it really gonna benefit the township?
Right.
Yeah, it's
You know,
crazy.
Couple
As well as the
$100.
county, it's just another.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
well, technically, you're supposed to pull a permit now just to even change out an electrical outlet or a hot water tank.
Right, yeah.
Who said that? Is that a
That's-
county thing?
That's a
They
county.
changed it a few years ago.
Yeah.
What do you guys like in time?
We're all trying to share
We're
a
all sharing
pen.
the same pen, okay?
Nobody's gonna share except Tara.
Oh,
Go around, Matt, do you have anything else you wanna add?
I got one question, I guess. So you're going back to a 2-acre lot and you can add a house?
Working on
an ADU.
80.
Right on.
What number,
Well,
what number do you think should be?
Well, I don't think 5. I think 5 acres was too much and that was spit out. I thought that was what was agreed on.
That was what Farmington did.
Okay,
Farmington did that.
but I thought we had that discussion at one of them trustee meetings and that's what was said.
I think it was just, Jeff liked the idea of 5 acres and Jim
I
was
I
okay
think it's a
with,
little excessive,
60
that's
foot.
also, with the 2 acres, I was perfectly fine with that. I just think it's excessive,
What do you think?
my
Cory?
opinion.
what's the minimum acreage to build an individual house right now? If I bought property to put a house up,
41 acre.
that's all it is, as long as it's 150 feet wide.
So why wouldn't it be 2 acres then
Yeah.
for,
Or two.
Well,
Yeah, good.
I guess my other question, and this kind of goes with the other flag lots. If you're doing an ADU, are we building a separate driveway? Or is it the same driveway?
You almost have to have a driveway, go to if you're gonna do an ADU, if we're considering that a second dwelling, you have to have a driveway to go back there, right, or you're gonna have them.
if there's already a driveway there?
But well, I guess that was my argument in putting in an additional 80-foot wide driveway, right? For a flag lot.
On a flag lot, yeah.
Yeah.
This is separate from that. This is on the
Correct.
same lot.
I understand that, but where,
So you're not requiring a driveway to go back to
We
that?
haven't yet, no.
I see.
We need-
you know, where do things stop getting muddy? 80-foot wide driveway is pretty big anyway.
Well, that's why you just call it an ADU. That's what I argued that
That was,
3 or
I,
4 meetings ago.
well, that's,
You're trying to stop from building the houses be on the
Multiple.
same lot, but you're gonna approve ADUs.
Right.
So
Or
it
something.
doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And personally, I mean, I can appreciate how the Amish put 3 houses up on 10 acres and they're not taking up all the road frontage. As someone who owns land, I appreciate that, but I also don't want to see a bunch of small houses chopped up in, this is my kid's house, this is grandma's house, this
I
is,
think the county will stop that. You ain't gonna do that. I'm telling you. That's, the 5 acres comes in for a septic system. If you have 5 acres, you're pretty well immune from them bugging you and going through all this. If you have
Right.
less than 5 acres, then so the 5 acres, I think, makes sense, but it's a big lot. That's a big,
so would we be further ahead to make a minimum 5 acres to help them forego headaches?
That,
I get where he's coming from.
I think it's excessive.
I think it's
My
too
opinion.
much.
They're either gonna deny, or they're either gonna approve it or deny it, it doesn't matter, it's all about your soil.
yep.
So it doesn't matter, yeah, I mean,
So if we stay with 2 acres right now, we're.
I would think it'd be somewhat fair. 5 acres, I think, is ridiculous. I just do. I think that's more than enough to be having 2 homes on. You know, because a lot of people aren't gonna be able to do that, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily maybe agree with keeping the same square footage either, because let's just say this. Can a person, say they're having children, and they wanna put their in-laws in their existing home, it's a little smaller, and they wanna build a little bit bigger home out back. You're saying right now they can't do that.
well, that's what I was asking, can you
Flip-flop.
realign what is the permanent dwelling and what is the ADU?
Right, but that's
That's,
you know, they can also add on to the house they're in, but.
so now you're establishing this is the main dwelling and this is the ADU.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
That's what
know
I
how
mean,
that
you're gonna
works.
have to, I don't know.
That's what I asked the last time, so I'm not sure.
Because personally, I would be interested in that law. I mean, my kid's 19 now. I have 85 acres. It'd be nice to be able to keep her at home
Mhm.
and not chew up a bunch of road frontage.
Your thoughts, Jim?
Sure.
I know, keep it simple, and I understand that, just.
No,
He wants to know if we can build multiplexes.
what? No. Never. No, I know you brought that up. My concern, and I don't want to bring it because it's throwing more mud against the wall, is the flag lot.
I think they go like this between the two.
Yeah.
Flag lot doesn't have any.
Well, yeah, because if I wanted to build another house on my property, now I'm going way back to, I don't know what meeting it was. You told me I had to have 80-foot frontage to build another house back there. Well, what? So I'll just call it an ADU and use my driveway. Right?
Is it
I
on
mean,
the
I
same-
can't
is it
build a
on-
bigger house
Is
than
it
what.
on the same parcel?
Yeah.
Well, that's a difference in the flag lot.
That's the difference there in the flag lot. You're not, on a flag lot,
I got that, but I'm just saying if I want to build another house, if the flag lot, then I gotta have another partial. Well, if it's somebody that in my family, I'll just call it an ADU.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I guess the difference with
The only difference is there's no driveway.
Yeah.
That's the only
80
difference
foot.
between.
That
right.
was the thing that.
That's what my
got
point is
me.
too, that's the only difference is there's no driveway, so that's the only difference between that and a flag lot.
well, there's no
There's no
size
driveway.
regulation on a flag lot either, correct?
You could.
You don't have a percentage of the home.
So I think though, if he goes to sell this, it's sold as one unit, not as 2 separate units.
I wonder
One
about
lot.
that too, right, so they're not
Yeah,
gonna make,
so you're not gonna have.
it's not gonna be
2
double
separate
deeded when they do an
Right.
ADU, right, it's gonna be all on one.
Correct.
so
Yeah.
one parcel.
Yeah,
units. It's one
and a
person.
flag lot would have to
So
be
that makes a difference.
2, correct?
With 5 acres.
And didn't the flag lot have to be 5 acres?
Right.
Back to that 5 acres.
That's where,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Yes, so it does separate it.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Wait, what about old business?
Yeah.
Oh,
Come on.
A couple things.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Comments from members.
Have a couple things.
Tara,
I followed up with the Tribune, and I have another email address, pass it to Ken, please. When we send our stuff to the Tribune, we should copy her on it, and she will reply and let you know she will put it in, make sure it's in there.
So I have to cancel.
Yes. And I emailed Ellen about the, shipping containers. She got back to me that she'll get on that.
I'm sorry.
She emailed me back today. That she will work on that.
About all the ones that are getting put in, it's too late. They're in.
Where they at? I'd like to see them.
Go down,
I can take you around.
Are
down
they
to
just,
the
are they
pandemic
just
out
using
here.
them for
Storage.
Go down-
Oh, nobody's
go down-
building houses out, cause they're,
well, the one,
Not
the
yet.
Devon, there's two of them, it's a big garage with a boat underneath it.
Our zoning deal right now, those states, we can have them, but you have to build something around them so you
Now, you
can't
have
see
to
them.
get a conditional zoning certificate.
Yeah,
put
right.
in. And that means you gotta go to the Board of Appeals, and there's a whole bunch of things that.
Okay.
You know,
And I'm not doing it.
and they're-
No, they're just
none of
done.
these people have done it. None of these people have done
It's just
So-
so trashy right now. I just-
What do you do about that? I mean, can we?
They'll have to get
Can you force them to?
You almost should be able to, it's in the
Yeah.
zoning.
Well, she'll have to give her, what do
You
you call it?
almost think you
Issue
should be able to
some
take them
It's
before.
kind of,
it. She should be,
Issuing it.
the zoning inspector should send a letter to those people stating that they have a shipping container which is in violation of section whatever it is in the township zoning resolution, and then I need to remove it or go to the Board of Appeals to get.
right.
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
So I gave her 3 different addresses and we'll see what happens.
So, do you have to get a zoning permit to put a driveway in?
Okay, those are my 2 things, Ken. Vivian, your turn.
I'm good.
No, I don't know what it is, but it's a no.
I have one thing before you adjourn. I heard you mention, so I'm assuming you're not done. Are you coming back?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll say anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
For your
We're
service.
very grateful for you, Ken.
Yes.
I'm very
I
grateful.
know. I am too. What made you change your mind? Can I ask that?
There are so many things going on right now that it would
Can't
be
make it,
unfair of me to step out now and just leave you guys in the lurch.
Thank you.
And as I understand it, there's nobody who has applied for any of the positions.
not that I know.
And Kurt resigned as an alternate member, so there is no alternate now.
I could be the host.
And it just wouldn't have been, pardon,
You resigned.
resigned. It just would have been unfair, in my mind, it would have been unfair to leave in
Thank
the
you.
lurch like this and, you know, walk away and
How long have you been doing it?
it's 2003.
You'd be lost without us, I think.
I think we find a lot of things to
I think
do.
it's a reverse,
Yeah.
but
So-
we'll just leave it at that.
You're welcome.
No, it's a long time to do that.
By law, until I get replaced, I'm on it anyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you can't quit.
The state statute says until you're replaced, if your term is up and you haven't been replaced, you're still on it.
Can the trustees remove you?
Yes, they can do that. Yeah.
No.
I'll make the motion to adjourn, okay?
Second,
Second, I second.
roll